Hello, everybody. Hi, Anya.
Hi, you'll have to bear with me, everybody. Today I've got a dodgy throat. I've got a bit of a throat chakra thing going on.
That's
So I sound like a 90-year-old smoker today, but we're rolling with it.
I take it. I think that's a pretty sexy vibe sometimes when I get like I need to make some romantic tunes right now.
I don't even feel like I could make a tune right now. I went to an open mic night the other day and I literally gave it my last of my voice. And I think that that's what's took it. Like,
Oh, that makes sense.
no more.
All right. Well, how has your week been? What's that been like?
Yeah, it's been a lot. Feels like a lot of things are happening in a very short space of time. A lot of intense energies and different frequencies going on. Very busy, very overwhelming, a lot of different in and out vibes. But yeah, I'm just kind of rolling with it really. What about you?
It just has felt really off. Like my tech stuff was off, and like things just like weren't as in flow this week. I had a lot of ups and downs where I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go," and then I was like, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah, yeah, I feel that.
I'm out.
Yeah, definitely feel that.
A lot of interesting constructs popping up, and today we were going to talk about the mother and father. And I have to say, I've definitely been running through those this week.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel they've been running on for a couple of weeks in like the background, the mother wounds. I mean, man, these have been going on forever. But I guess it's funny, isn't it, that we shift as attention and as energy and our intention and what we're working through. And you go through the inner child, you go through self-worth, you go through abandonment issues, maybe. There's so many layers you might go through, but yet sometimes I end up feeling like, why am I still experiencing some of the symptoms, if you will, of, the side effects of them wounds when I have sat through a lot of these work, a lot of the healing, a lot of the inner child, a lot of the abandonment, a lot of the not feeling worthy. Like I've sat with that deeply in many different facets, ceremonies and meditation and journaling, and for many years. And so you kind of like get to a point where you're like, okay, am I missing something? Like, is there something I need to be looking deeper at or like deconstructing in a different way? And I guess that's when the concept of mother and father wounds came up a little bit because we've got the witch wound and the wound between women and the lineage of wounds between women, which we spoke about before
Yep.
on a previous video. So you can find that. Um, but the mother and father wounds, I think that's different. And I think typically everybody hears it and they're like, oh, it means you had a shit childhood or you don't get on with your mum and dad. And that's not actually the case. Like, you could have had a lovely childhood and been loved and cared for and still experience some mother and father wounds from needs that were not met. So, yeah, I'm quite excited to kind of finally dive into this concept a little bit more and unpick what it means a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. Oh shit.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
My face.
again, my Tuesday night group, we brought it up and I had this whole worksheet thing that I'd made and I was working through it and I was like, oh my God, I actually tick every single box. And you'd think, as like the person facilitating, I might not tick every single box, but no, your gal was ticking every single box. And one of the girls on there was like, holy shit, you might as well have just written a description of my personality and my emotional traits. And I was like, true, me too. Like, we all experience these things. And let me just say, because we're talking about it, I did have quite a nice upbringing. I was loved very much so, cared for, needs met in some ways. And there's a lot of different things that maybe weren't met, but I can say that my parents gave it the best of what they were capable of at all times. And that's really what you can ask for. You can't expect perfection, especially now as a parent. I understand that you can't expect perfection from any human. It's unrealistic. But I guess let's first of all, before we go into like the definitions on in more of a mainstream concept, what would you define father and mother wounds as?
I mean, really what comes up with that, if I'm looking at the overall picture, is worthiness, failure. I mean, those would be the two pieces that I come from both sides that I get.
Yeah,
consistently. Like my mom's side would be the people pleaser, the peacekeeper, uh, that's suppression to a certain extent, and then the
Yeah.
over need to defend as the feeling unsafe comes up. And from my dad, that's going to be like a complete shutdown, not being able to express situations with authority where I just don't take that power over, control, or none at all. Where
Hmm.
I'm just like, I don't know what to do in that situation because I didn't have a protector at that point. So I can tell my little
Yeah.
kid, like, I don't know, right? Passive aggressive,
Yeah.
definitely. The
Mhm.
overworker could come from that. Like this just goes on.
So many. Yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought that in though, because people commonly see it as like, oh, I didn't get on with my mum and didn't get on with my dad. And then, like they've got no, like people believe they don't have these wounds because they don't have disconnected relationships with the parents or massive trauma with the parents. But like what you just said is really important because they're not just about dislike and deep resentment and deep trauma. They're sometimes about looking at a situation in a non-biased way and not judging anybody and just looking at the situation and seeing, okay, maybe that child was very much more emotionally mature or very much more emotionally deeper than the parents that she was around or he or she, and they wasn't quite able to hold the capacity of that emotion. So when they was too emotional, they were told to be quiet and shut up and stop being silly and stop making a fuss because their parents didn't know how to regulate in that moment because they were never taught that. And so that for them was a trigger. But that wasn't done out of malicious nastiness. That was just done out of please be quiet because you're making a scene, stop doing that. And then that is, like you said, creating the layer of suppression. It's not safe to express this emotion healthily. So again, that's a wound in itself. And so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about things like people pleasing, fear of abandonment, issues with self-worth. A lot of them come with the mother wound. Again, they can tie over, like you said. And then we've got the difficulty with authority, fear of failure, and struggles with like communication and vulnerability. A lot of that is from the father side. And again, this might not even be directly your mum and dad. This might be their parents, their parents,
Exactly.
their parents, and go up
I was gonna
generational.
say, man, I would have to say I had a pretty good upbringing. I did get a lot of my needs met. And I hit and I've dove in deep, just like you have, on so many facets. And then I hit another, and I'm like, "Damn, this is my freaking great grandfather shit is coming through my, so you just get to the ground. There's another layer there." But
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
it's very much so layered in the DNA. So the cells can flag your genetic traits at any moment, and any type of a trigger that pops up, and it might not be directly from your parents. This could be all the way back.
yeah. No, exactly that. And there's a new song that's come out by Alex Warren, and it's called Bloodline. And it's singing to men, and it's like the main line is, "Oh my brothers, you don't have to follow in your bloodline." And I really like it's like sang with a lot of passion and a lot of energy, and like you can feel the masculine strength and the masculine energy of like reclaiming the story, just because you feel like you've been connected to a certain pathway or generational energy. It's very rare you're going to find a generation of all saints. You're going to have an oddball in there. You're going to have some juju in there. And it's about not just like ignoring it and shoving it to the side. Like we've got some in our family that, some pretty bad shit, and you can't just ignore that. You have to actually look at it and sit through it so that it's not just allowed to seep in through the underneath the seams. And especially now as a parent as well, I do look at it as a different way because I am a mother and, my kids are in this dynamic with the mum and dad, and I don't want to create them same wounds that I'm experiencing. So it does make you more conscious, but there'll be others that I'm not conscious of that I will be subconsciously creating without even realizing it because we can't be aware of everything. And that's why it's really important to work on reclaiming our own story and rewriting our own story and healing ourselves instead of blaming the people that couldn't meet the needs because unfortunately sometimes it's just about a capacity thing, you
Totally.
know?
Yeah, for sure. That's where the taking responsibility comes big in this. Any way, any shape, form, anything that comes out of your mouth is all your responsibility to sit with and take a look at and see how that's interacting in your reality and if that's beneficial or not.
Yeah, and it's not mean to say that you can't have like empathy and sadness and grief and all the human
Totally.
emotions that come through with reclaiming that part of his story. But it's just important not to sit into the victim and be into the blaming of, oh, why didn't I never get that? Why couldn't my parents do that? Like, unfortunately, you didn't get it. So what is important to do now is to provide it for self in a different way through a multidimensional level, so that you are filling them wounds and them gaps instead of kind of sitting in the same loop. Because by sitting in the victim, you're contributing to the same wound in the same way, even though you're acknowledging it, because you're feeding it and then like feeding that emotion of righteousness, if you will. It feeds that justification of anger and lower vibrational emotion.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a difficult one though, because you're allowed to feel it. That's the point. You've got to feel it to heal it. Just don't stay in it. That's the point.
For sure. Right. And it's a dance. That's why I always call it a dance, because it comes up, it's acknowledging it, it's understanding it, it's not pushing it away, it's not bringing it into a blame place. It's how can I integrate it? How can I accept it? If something needs to detox or get out, then we'll work that piece. And what actions can I do now? Because obviously, then, I mean, we all have stayed in victimhood, blame. I keep finding little lines where I'm like, oh, look, I still have a tiny little bit of blame in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Which is
I've got
okay.
shitloads. Yeah. There's some hiding in every crack, and I'm like, really? I really thought I'd dealt with this, you know?
Yep. Yep. That's
But
when it's
it's
like,
there.
oh, next layer.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's an unlooked at layer. When you get there, you still, that's raw. So that's not being looked at and sat with. So that's still in that moment you experience it, which was most likely a younger version of self that did not have this awareness and understanding. So she's probably sat there experiencing it just in that moment of like, what the fuck, this is painful, you know, and she's still living that. And so, you know, it's difficult when we're talking about the inner child, because it's like talking to a child. You know, when a child's having an emotional tantrum or they're dysregulated or they're crying, you can't really sit there and explain the multidimensional levels of why that happened and the higher purpose of that. Like,
Yep.
it's the same thing. When you're going through that and you feel like, oh, I'm having a meltdown, oh, I'm having such a bad moment, that's your inner child having a little tantrum over there. And your nervous system is trying to regulate that and deal with that in the adult with the inner child. And this is why everything's kind of so disconnected in self, because there's so many parts of us that haven't been sat with, if you will. And I guess now is the time to start sitting with them versions and
Totally.
sit with them from a different perspective of more, how can I mother myself? How can I father myself? How can I be that parent? How can I meet that needs? If you were looking at a child over there in front of you that were needing validation, needing encouragement with communicating, seeking a sense of exploration with something and looking at you for approval, how would you approach that situation? Ask yourself that question.
Totally.
And then start offering that to yourself, but in a way of like literally speaking it to self. Okay, so you're feeling this emotion right now. What would you like to do about that? What would make you happy? What would make you feel good? How would you like to do that? Like, physically speak to yourself as if you're talking to that inner child within when they're having a little wobble, and start to reparent the inner child in a way that you needed parenting, so that you can start to heal those mother and father wounds on such a deeper level.
Right, right. And now is definitely the time to do that.
Mm.
I would say it's next level. It's next level right now. I've had to sit. I mean, I've had a few tantrums this week, and I'm like, gonna just have those tantrums right now. Those are gonna happen. I'll be out on the floor right now until my body discovers what it needs to. Is it's an awareness, and we can start to repattern that. But I go all the way into that. You know, I know you do too. Like if it's there, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sit with it right now.
Unfortunately, mine's not always a choice. I think if I'd had the choice, I'd be like, fuck no. But my brain and my higher self and my subconscious is like, yeah, we're going there. And I'm,
Yep.
oh, God.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. There's a little bit of resistance. Like, oh, it's not already.
Yeah. I just feel like sometimes it's inconvenient. And I know that's hard to like, so human to say, but you know, in a human life, I'm like, really, do you have to give me like 3 days of paralyzing emotions and I've got a birthday party and a trip to plan for? Like,
Yep.
come on, right now.
And you're like, absolutely. It's the best time,
Yes,
right?
of course. It's frustrating, you know, it is. And I guess there's so many different outcomes too. Like that's why reparenting yourself is the best
Yep.
option, because having any expectation that your parents or role model people will necessarily come into that awareness and gain them skills and meet them needs is most likely going to set you up for more letdown and emotional trauma.
Sure.
But what I will say is sometimes when you start to reparent those needs in self and you start to display that energy and you start to set a tone and a frequency, people around you can meet you there. And I've witnessed it, including with my own parents, of how I choose to reparent, how I asked for support in when I had the baby the second time, and like the way I communicated that and the way that then that was brought to me rather than me just going, oh, they can't meet my needs, so I'm not going to bother. I actually sat with, okay, what are my needs and who could meet what need? And then ask these people. And they stepped up to the plate incredibly. So it's like sometimes also learning how to communicate. Just because previously they weren't capable to meet that need doesn't mean that they can't evolve and grow and potentially be able to meet you somewhere. I'm not saying they might be able to, tick every box, but there is potential. That's all I'm saying, depending on what frequency and what level you are in your energies and families and what's happened and the depth of that. Obviously, it's very individual, unique, one-to-one situational based, but I've witnessed things in my own experiences and lineages and mother-father wounds that I just wouldn't have thought would be a thing. And then seeing that happen is like full circle moment. And it really is quite healing for my nervous system to actually gain some sense of acknowledgement. And yeah, acknowledgement is probably the best word there, like sense of, oh shit, yeah, that was real, not just in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's I would have to say the first part of it once I see something and I acknowledge it, then I validate it. I'm like immediately it's my validation because I'm not going to deny that from my body. And it is like if I have my little kid or a little kid in front of me and they're feeling something really big, like I'm like, oh, look, I'm gonna acknowledge that. They also need the validation. You also need the validation that's real. Otherwise, you can gaslight yourself into thinking other things and then you bypass it. And then it comes back again a little bit harder. And you're like, oh shit.
Every time.
Every
That's
time.
sometimes my little thing. Like I'm like, is it me? Is it not me? Am I the problem? Because I've got this. It's difficult in spirituality, right? Because they teach, not even they who say, you learn along the way that a lot of things are a reflection of self. Everything's kind of a co-created reality and conscious creation of your mind and choices with souls and higher selves, and
Right.
everything's a little bit less random than we once thought. And so when you experience shit, I'm kind of always like, well, what did I need to learn from that? What is my lesson? Maybe what was my reflection? What was I, displaying? Did I approach that wrong? And it's deciphering between self-reflection and being a self-emotionally aware person to check, is this shit me or not? And also not blaming self and not shrinking to people please and to mold to please other people. And I find that a very thin line when it comes to like long-term navigating emotions and deeper things, that it's like, okay, what actually is the full truth? Because everything is so mushed up right now. Sometimes it's difficult to like find, okay, what is my self-awareness and what is me blaming self? There's a
So
fine line.
yeah, there is. It's like an accordion for me. It's
Mm-mm.
this phase. If I'm sitting with something very deep, I'm not going to immediately go to, oh, look, this is me creating my reality and I'm choosing this because that validates a portion of myself that's feeling something deeply
Mm-hmm.
that had something happen to her. That was horrific,
Right?
right? So I'm not going to be at that level right off the bat. Because that just just pissed my body off right off the
No, I
bat.
get that. Totally get it. It's like toxic positivity, and yeah, I get
Totally,
that.
totally. It's like, no, something happened to me. I'm gonna validate that. I'm gonna let the expression work its way through, release
Mm-hmm.
to start to repattern that. And sometimes I've got to observe this piece for a good period of time, see how it interacts, see what triggers it, see how my body interacts
Yeah.
with it before I even kind of dive in to sit and go, hey, I want to be with you right now. Let's do, and I just want you to know that I'm here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I sit with that first, and then it goes through the accordion phase where is this from here? Is this what imprint is this? My mom, my dad, society. I don't know. Then I pin that point.
Right.
Could be multidimensionally from another incarnation. Once that's moving its way through, then I kind of work the balance of like what needs to come back. What action do I need to take then from this piece? Do I need to speak
'Cause,
up?
yeah,
Right? Do I need to tell somebody off? Do I need to tell somebody that they're not this is not acceptable friendship anymore because it hasn't been working for me? Like what is my action point? And then from that point, working through phases of like acceptance, some forgiveness, a little bit of compassion there, I can get to a point where like, yeah, this is the reality that I chose, right? But it is like a
I get that. I love the accordion example. That makes sense. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, like not invalidating self, because sometimes, like, and I can admit previously when I first went into spirituality, I was kind of like that, like, oh, everything happens for a reason. And obviously, I wouldn't say it to certain situational based, but I remember saying it at times where I knew instantly, like, shit, I shouldn't have said that right now, like not even in a work based setting, more so in a friend, family based setting. And I could feel how it invalidated them. And I definitely noticed that and noticed like how that's not no like that's not on a roll. Like maybe
Yep.
again it's understanding multidimensionality on a soul level. Yeah, I get that, but on a human level, we ain't there yet. And it's the same thing with grief. Like I understand death. I work with death every day. I work with dead spirits, dead people, all sorts of ETs, different frequencies, timelines, anything. And then obviously when you experience death, I have a huge emotional attachment to death. Like it makes me so sad. I cry all the time at TikTok videos. And I'm like, you'd think after 10, 12 years in this world that I'd be more emotionally desensitized to it. But I'm not. Like I find it so humanly sad. And like I'm not saying I get it, I understand. You don't need to tell me the principles of the afterlife and the stuff. I totally get it. But I guess what I find sad is the finality of that version of them and that version of you at that place in the universe, in that experience, and I get it makes me very sad, Yeah. And I guess it's because maybe we're not all at that place to communicate and understand them things. And so it feels like it's a bit of a brick wall at the moment, Obviously not for us and people that choose to connect, but most of the world are kind of brick walled to that. And yeah, I guess that's why it feels quite final, quite finished in that version. It's the same thing as like you grieve your kids being babies, and then you still love them as fully grown adults, but you miss that time when they were babies because you grieve in that experience of that version of them and that version of you at that time. And that's how I see death. It's sad because you miss that time, that experience, that version of you both.
Right. Yep. That's a very, very real aspect of grief.
I don't know where that came from or like why that was relevant
To pull
to.
that out.
Or maybe the accordion. I think that
Yeah,
was that. It was
validating, they
yeah,
validating
it was
that's
the
reality.
depth of the emotion and how we don't want to invalidate it. Because like, could you imagine saying that to someone who just lost someone? Like
Oh
you would
yeah.
never, And so it's the same thing, regardless of what's happened. You would never go to that level of invalidation about things that are so emotionally important, and you don't know how emotionally important some things are to other people. So, yeah, I guess that's why it got brought up because we're allowed to have multi-existing emotions of knowing this and feeling this at the same time.
Yep. All of these can exist. I'll say that. All of these can exist. And
Coexist.
that's another important piece to the multidimensionality is like, yeah, I'm feeling like uh, I'm not gonna validate or well, I'm gonna validate myself in this space, but not like be in a space where I can forgive somebody who did a particular something to me,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly,
So
yeah.
it's the dance, and there's no right or wrong to it from my perspective, because if I go into that, then I will inherently be the wrong one. So
Yeah.
that's the level that I've been working through. I mean, right
No,
now,
I get
but
I get that. I get that a lot. And, just on that, I think that some of that comes from the ancestral layer of like not necessarily your lineage, but of our lineage between the mother and father wounds, specifically the mother wounds, of feeling like the trauma and the survival patterns and the belief that we must sacrifice ourselves for others. We must surely be the ones that, that like indebtment to others, specifically on the maternal line, that love equates to pain, or that as a woman, we're not necessarily allowed to shine and be the one that's, the main, you know what I'm saying? For some reason, I have not got human words right now. but you get the vibrational energy that's coming out. It's like that emotional suppression and disempowerment in the female line coming from that maternal energy. And that might not even come from your mum saying you're not allowed to shine. It might be because she felt like that from her experience and they felt like from their experience. And so
Oh,
she's just inherently passing on that, oh, so stay small in this environment, again, safety thing. And because we live in a patriarchal world, it often does devaluate the feminine energy and the what it truly means to be feminine, soft, and vulnerable. Like it's not very safe to be in that full embodiment a lot of the time. And so that emasculates women, as we spoke about many times before. But a lot of it equates to that like motherhood and family orientation equals like self erasure, or like you don't have a right to exist once you have a child, or you're selfish if you go to work, or you're selfish if you don't choose to do it this way, that way, this way, anyway, that pleases everybody, that no one pleases anyone because no one's ever happy with whatever way you choose. And so it's like there's this constant pressure and expectation that's put upon through the maternal line. And that'll come to men from women too. So this is not just like
yeah, it's
a
not.
woman thing. It's when I'm saying maternal, paternal, it's the same thing as we do masculine and feminine. It's the direct of how you've received it as either a man or a woman from your maternal and paternal energies coming in. But yeah, I think there is so much wounding from the divine feminine energy being unsafe and being diminished that is like deeply ingrained in the body's nervous system subconscious, and that's like a big one that we're working through right now. And my best advice would to be name it as it comes up in that moment. So when you like feel this shrinking, be like, no shrinking, and like physically check yourself on it. Like, no, we're not doing that right now, and acknowledge it. So you're actually bringing the physical response, the mental response, the emotional response, all of it to the surface, so that you can actually see, okay, why did that just happen? What triggered that? What was going on? And then you can do the reparenting, the connection with the inner child, the safety, compassion, communication, physical touch, validation, whatever it is that that version needs that's creating the outburst, you can then acknowledge it and receive it in that moment. So then you're physically reprogramming the little patterns that are coming up that are going to overall reprogram the overall mother wound, for example. So I just wanted to go a little bit deeper into like where the self-sabotaging patterns might come up, specifically in the mother wounds, and how you can look at fixing that in terms of the gap and the wounds that are in self. Like for me, when I looked at it, it was almost like wounds that had just been left to fester. And it was like that's just been closed off and left over there and really needed looking at, and brought up a lot of emotion in different ways, but also frustration at self for not for avoiding it, for not wanting to sit with it because it's painful. I think my subconscious was like, no, not yet, but all of it, taking action for it, really, I think that's what's most important. And also finding because we've been talking about the mother wounds, what the divine mother archetype looks like to you. So when I say, what does the divine mother look like? For me, it's very Mother Earth, very goddess, very etherically earthly, very frequency of grounding earth frequency. But when I did this with my Tuesday night, we had completely different answers between everyone. So there is no right answer. It's finding what does the actual divine mother, true divine mother frequency feel and look and appear and sound whatever like to you, so that
Right.
you can start to actually connect with that and embody that.
For sure. Yeah. And again, everybody, we're looking at you guys really empowering yourself to see what your perspective is and how you feel the best in your own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We have different perspectives on what that is for us. And I just recommend everybody take a look and see what the divine feminine looks like for you, what it feels like. Mine has a very Mother Earth quality, but also a feminine warrior that comes up pretty strong. And a few other facets of like deep feminine magic that
Yeah.
space. It's very soft right off the bat, but also don't mess with it.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
get that.
and
Yeah.
the masculine for me is very much so. a protector, but a very soft holder, the container that allows the feminine to move in any which direction that she needs to go, without overpowering, without needing to fix her, with just knows the right direction to go. If she gets a little bit out and she's like, oh, which way do I go? And there's a few lines there that he gets to throw out for her to step on, right? Very safe. I want to say that the masculine is my safety piece in my body, right? He's
Mm,
just be there, and he doesn't do anything. He's just like, I'm gonna be here. You wanna which way do you want to go, right? And I'll hold your back, okay? And I know what you got. I know that. I just want you to know that I got your back. And then if there anything does pop up, I can see him going, okay, I'm gonna take an action right here. And she's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm bringing in this intuition right now. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with that, right?
Mm,
So it's just going to depend on how you guys feel the best in your body and what feels empowering to you and how you want to work
yeah.
through these facets of the wounds too, because mine is I'm seeing this now. I'm gonna witness it, I'm gonna observe it, and then I'm gonna accept that this is coming up. Because if I don't accept that this is a part of myself, I'm gonna push it oh fuck away real
Yeah,
fast.
no, I get that. I get that. And you were saying something there, and interesting because I had to really sit with like, obviously, we've been working through the divine feminine and masculine integration for a good few months now. And I've been working with that. I feel very comfortable with knowing them versions of self. But then this divine mother energy came in, and it felt totally different to the divine feminine. Like,
Yep.
I have the divine feminine, she's a fire motherfucker. And she is like the same, like techno shit. But the divine mother for me felt far more secure in being vulnerable than I ever do in my divine feminine. And I guess that was a big, like, oh, okay, this is different. This is not the divine feminine. It's obviously connected to that frequency, but like it was clear this is divine mother. This is like, I'm going to show you how to mother yourself, And I was like, oh, sure, okay, And it was like, yeah. And again, I mentioned earlier, I have beautiful women in my life, including my mum. But I guess the one thing I do struggle with because I have such a capacity of emotions and awareness, and I'm extremely deep and I feel things so intensely, and I don't really have anyone around me that understands that or experiences that or resonates with that. And so as a woman, without that sisterhood or motherhood or like, reliance, to be able to sit and offload that emotion and communicate that and actually be held, definitely noticed the absence of that. And I guess the main absence was when I went into pregnancy and doing the pregnancy the way I did and the birth the way I did and postpartum. It was like such a huge gap of sisterhood and motherhood, of that emotional support and safety. Like a lot of physical support, I will not diminish that, but definitely such a huge gap in someone to talk to that can actually take my talk,
For sure.
and handle it without me feeling like that's too much for that person. And it felt like it was too much for every woman in my life. And I guess meeting this divine mother archetype, it was like, oh, that's what it feels like to be able to do that. Like, that's what it feels like to be held
I hear
by
that.
that energy that's like, okay, I've got you. You can just, what do you need? Get it out, let it all out. And it's not,
I hear that.
oh, come here, oh, I've just got to go, or, can we talk about this a different time, or what do you need me to do and fix it? Like you say, all these responses that are either avoidance, shut down, or fixing, and every single one of them creates diminishing and lack of validation. So then it's just, you just don't share it, do you? You just deal with it yourself. And I guess the main point of it, why I've never felt that energy even from my divine feminine, because she's like, come on, let's go, let's feel it, let's move, let's transmute it, let's move. And the divine mother was like, let's just sit here because you've got someone to sit here with. And it was just like, whoa, what the fuck is this? It was so unfamiliar to me, and very, very, very unfamiliar and very emotional. Like I felt very emotional in my human because I kind of wanted that physical layer to that physical level of that.
Yeah.
And it felt like, oh, I felt what that's like on an emotional level. Then it brought almost a remembrance of what that should be like on a physical level in sense, and felt the gap of that. And that was a bit emotionally sad. But yeah, finding a way to connect with it and transmit, not and translate it as how you can embody that to reparent your inner child will be incredibly healing.
Oh yeah, completely. And that's still a process for me because that new energy that had come in. It took me a while to even like, I'm like, we're gonna start this. I don't know what you're doing. Okay, hold on. And I think what it came down to is like me feeling safe to be consistently vulnerable.
Mm. Oh,
Consistent,
so
like
true.
I'm gonna hold this out and that's okay, and I'll use that as my power, right?
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
walking embodiment of vulnerability because that's authenticity. You know, that's how I
Hmm.
energy. And there's still plenty of times where I don't feel safe, and I'm like, okay, not quite there yet. I'm gonna just pull us back a little bit, right? So that
Right?
with that really divine mother, I feel very much so an acceptance to do that. Like I give myself
Mm.
permission to be vulnerable all the time, right?
Right.
And it's okay if I don't feel it. I can close it back for a little bit, but that's kind of permission that I got from that energy.
Yeah, and like you say, like I loved what you just said because the other day I felt myself like, oh, I don't feel safe right now. But instead of me going into, I'm gonna kick the fuck off like it was, or I'm aware I don't feel safe right now. And I was like, oh, I don't feel safe right now. And then I communicated that. I was like, I don't feel emotionally safe right now. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like that was so new. Like, how did that go from last week, me not feeling emotionally safe to fight or flight, need to go, need to leave, need to protect myself, to I've just been able to acknowledge that I'm not emotionally safe, feel it, and communicate it all in real time. Like that was quite, that's quite a big thing. I was like, no, damn,
It's
it's a big
huge.
thing.
It's huge. And I
Yeah.
have to say, like, I've been doing the same thing. And it's been surprising to me that I can kind of just go through that and be like, oh, whereas before I think like, one of those probably would have taken me like 3 months and I would have avoided the hell out of it
Mm,
or got
right.
defensive and then been like, oh, right, I'm feeling highly unsafe.
Hmm. Yeah, and I did also notice on the same respect, I had really bad 2 days of just feeling like so disconnected and alone. And yet I asked for physical support for like help with food shopping and help live because I have stairs and kids and all that shit. And I asked for that. And I noticed I was driving and I really wanted emotional support. And I was able to ask for the physical support, fine. But when it was coming to the emotional support, nah, not a chance. That day, there was just not enough in me that felt safe enough to even know how to articulate that and then even potentially deal with the wrong response. And I know that sounds bad because what is a wrong response? But at the time, there probably would have been a wrong response. Let me
Yeah.
be real.
I
You
would
know,
have to say, like, I had
I was
definitely
feeling away.
I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really want to deal with responses right now. And
Yeah.
there's definitely ways to come about, like when I'm deep with my friends, when they're needing to express something, and me just saying, I'm right here with you, like, and that's it. I'm not trying to do anything else. And if you would like other type of support, please let me know. But know that I'm right here. I got your back.
Mm-hmm.
And them expressing them is thank you so much. I'm always in gratitude when people express something to me because the amount that I feel like it takes for expression in many cases is a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it feels like you think, you hear it so many times, oh, it doesn't take a lot to just speak or communicate. And I get it, don't open your mouth and speak, but and I have been guilty of saying that 100 times. But I guess as you learn and you say things and you're like, oh shit, it's not as easy as just saying them things because you're saying that thing because you're reflecting. And again, going back to earlier, how much is a reflection of self? Because in the times where I've said that, I know it's because I've not been fully communicating and from a vulnerable place. So I've reflected out of defense, like how hard is it to just communicate? Because I'm not communicating clearly at that time. And so, I'm aware. And again, that's coming from the masculine because that's coming from the abandonment or the absence, feeling like even if you had a father, even if there was great physically, sometimes if they're not emotionally present or even emotionally stable. So they could be present and loving and nice at times, but if they drank alcohol and got unpredictable, if they came home from work and was quite moody all the time and you didn't know when was a good place to talk or not or ask questions or not and you had to kind of walk on eggshells, all that is creating this physical and emotional absence of unpredictability in love and unpredictability in safety. That again, that falls under like conditional love, and sometimes it goes on being valued for like performance or achievements because if the masculine energy wasn't necessarily as present throughout the things, but only then showed up for like big things or certificates or like things like that, then it's going to be seen in your mind as, oh, well, if I do that shit, then I get my father's attention or male, dad, brother, uncles, masculine representation of fatherhood in there. And then that can come to like extreme criticism, like harshness on self, and even neglect on self to like meet this perfectional standard in your brain that's just like fucking unreasonable. And finding love that's unpredictable. So like bipolar love, like you will find familiarities in unpredictable love because that's what was familiar to your nervous system as a child. You learn how to dance between the eggshells, and that felt safe in some way because you knew it. Whereas something that you don't know how to prepare for because you've never experienced it, as much as it sounds wild, because obviously on a conscious level it looks safer, it is safer, your body does not know how to receive that. It's never experienced it. So all it knows is, this is safe, I've done this before, I know how to deal with this, I've practiced this, I know how to walk on eggshells, I can do this. And so it finds safety in unpredictable love, and that's why a lot of women find men like their abusive fathers or emotionally absent fathers or physically absent fathers, because they find validation in the masculine from what they're missing as children. And it's really sad. But, and sometimes the dad can be great, but if there's generational trauma, like we were saying earlier, of a man being disconnected from his emotions, or his dad, or a representation of men being disconnected, like this is a big one for men with their fathers, huge, as we all know, the mental health crisis, the men not being able to speak and be vulnerable and it being seen as weakness and all that shit, it's absolutely disgusting. And men being the provider only, like a very physical role, which has completely taken them out of the emotional role of being a dad, which is to be a safe, masculine, grounded presence for the feminine energy and then for the children there as well. And this has created such a shift in like toxic masculinity and abuse of power, dominance, violence, all passed down through like generational of shit. And that being covered by the silence, the emotional suppression, and the like covering it up, or even just point blank emotional neglect from absence due to being a workaholic, because they can't sit with their emotions, so they deflect it elsewhere. So there's so many different layers to this, and the patriarchal ones that are all like, if you're a man, you're controlling, you're aggressive, you're like very, stoic, or very like, you have to be stiff upper lip, as we call it in England, And really this comes from, if you actually look, where are the healthy masculine role models? Where are the healthy father role models? Like anywhere. On TV, a lot of them are slobs and alcoholics and emotionally disconnected or traumatized or absent. In the real world, a lot of them now are so afraid because of this massive woke agenda that they're very step back and, not connected to the children in a lot of ways. And their fathers, if we think about the generations, they were in war, they experienced all this trauma of the psychological state, and their generation before them experienced that. So really we're talking like 100, 200 years of mental attack and traumatizing of masculine father roles to take them out of their family picture, which then emasculates a woman and sends her out of a feminine into a masculine, which then doesn't meet the emotional needs of the children, which then creates disconnected and emotionally traumatized children, which are also raised by a state which are completely programmed to indoctrinate them with a certain curriculum and tax the woman for being out of the home. And then the whole thing was just orchestrated straight into the workforce. And it was like, really, what a clever plan. They really had it planned out well, didn't they? Yeah. It was a very, very clever plan.
That right there, folks. Well, that right there, folks, is why we get a little bit crazy every day. You want to keep through all of that?
Yeah. The other day, I was truly sat here like, and everything just connects. And the last one is Jesus Christ, because there's a lot of men now turning into Jesus Christ, like turning to Jesus Christ through their divine masculine awakening. No, I'm not saying that's wrong. Great, because it's making them see, they're not watching porn, they're not, engaging in toxins and over abusing themselves and demasculating themselves, and they're not living in a toxic masculine mindset, like they're being connected to self. But my issue is Christ consciousness as a frequency, as an energy, beautiful, wonderful. The actual concept of religion in itself can take your power away a lot. And my only issue is I'm wondering if this divine masculine father rising, which is going connected through Jesus Christ, because it seems to be that Christ consciousness is the key to remembrance for a lot of men.
Right now, yeah, that's what I've seen too.
But yeah, but like it's like hopefully that keeps going past
Right.
the human form of Jesus Christ into an actual Christ consciousness, and that power resides within you because you are part of Jesus Christ and part of source energy. And I'm just hoping like it evolves past that, because sometimes in religion there can be a lot of 3D suppression and restriction, and a lot of actual suppression on women too, and that's what worries me. Like I don't want to go backwards, you know.
And vice versa, you know,
Yep, yep,
you get a
everywhere,
yep, and then
everywhere.
into
Yeah.
hierarchy, and then we start all over again, right?
Mhm. So thanks for listening out on that little rant dance we had, because it's a lot. But man, sometimes when you connect the dots, it's like, whoa, the feminine, the masculine, the mother, the father, the inner child, everything is connected. Of course it is, because we are a connected being to source, to everything, and we all come from the same origin frequency. And so we're all just translating this in different ways. And I guess that's why we do what we do, because we can help translate it in our way, which might resonate with someone, but it also might not. And that's the point. We always say, take it or leave it. Take what you like, leave what you don't.
Yeah, always. And I'm just laughing at the whole thing because it's such a, like a comic book story right now. I'm like, ah, that is so it. I
It's
see so
true,
many
though.
of men shifting into the Christ consciousness, which is great. Again, like I'm
Yeah,
not like slamming that down. It's a step. I would say it's a step
yeah,
to
yeah,
going, oh, I'm going to take some responsibility and be able to hold something more emotional, I would say. So,
yeah. And I think it's a good gateway for them. Like, and I do have to admit, because obviously I've experienced it as a woman, and I think I have a lot of lifetimes as well. Like, I see how women have been suppressed in many ways, obviously, but I do see how viciously men have been attacked on an emotional level, which is obviously to be able to not, like we said, not meet their needs
yep.
and create that union, that harmony between masculine and feminine. Again, men, women, woman, man, don't matter, masculine, feminine energies. That's being attacked to stop that from being a unit and then flowing energy. And so really the step is important, so important. But I just want to remind everyone that anything that judges others or tells others that they are wrong and you are right is based in ego. And we have to look at that. You have to look at that. Like that's, you can't spin it whatever way you want to save other people. If they're in their truth and you're in yours, that should be enough. And that's what I think we all have to remember here. Like, translate it however you want. I have no qualms with people connecting in with Jesus Christ energy religion, as long as it's truth to self, as long as it's not just learn behavior from a book, from a sermon, from the talkings.
Whatever it might
Like,
be. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Carolyn, my friend, said experience is key. And I love that. Like when you experience it, you don't need to believe something, you know it. You know it in your soul because you've experienced it. And that's the point.
Yep. Yep. And then it just becomes a straight the authenticity piece comes into alignment. You don't even have to you stop explaining yourself because you know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like through this whole aspect of what we're talking about, I'm just gonna reiterate, what is it that you actually do need? What did you not get when you were little? Take the time to sit and see if you have your own needs met right now, because that's a big facet to this. And then this follows all these many routes that we talked about. The main thing is, it's a step process. Keep it simple for yourself. It's never ending. I'll tell you,
Literally.
you'll be,
Don't think you're gonna get to the end because you're not, but you'll
you're
just get to
not,
deep
but
layers and you'll smash it.
get to the next level.
Yeah.
And over time, it's understanding that you can work with all of these pieces and parts of yourself and embody yourself even more and make the choices that work best for you. And over time, we're looking at too being able to co-create with each other, like you and I do, in
Mm-hmm.
ways that actually benefit and not where it leads back to the victimization or the blame or war, which seems to cycle a lot in humanity. It's taking a step, everybody. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks, Z. I've really enjoyed, articulating this tonight with you, even though my voice has been temperamental. We've managed to power through, but Yeah, I always love working with you and the realness of it and the flow we have and the energies. And, obviously, I just want to mention that, like Z says every week, if you do have any questions, you do want to get involved, you know where we are, do get involved. Make sure you are like doing all the human stuff, following, subscribing. We are on TikTok. And yeah, we're going to be doing a lovely retreat next year. So if you do want to join us in person, make sure you are sending us an email. That'll be all in the description below. And if you just want some information, anything like that. But don't be afraid to ever get involved with me and Z if you have, you want to dive deep into a subject, anything like that, or you need any one-to-one help. We both offer different things. So just don't be afraid to connect. We are not like these spiritual celebrity people. Like, we're just normal people, just like you guys. We go through
Keep
it.
it
We feel
real.
it.
We'll say that. We keep
Yeah,
it really real,
we
just like
very
you guys
much
are.
do. Yeah. And so, you know where we're at. Don't be afraid to reach out if you're going through something and you need a bit of support. We all need support sometimes, so we can't do it alone. Sometimes we need a bit of guidance. So, yeah, I'm sending love to everyone that tuned in. And, you've got this. Be the parent you needed as a child and meet those needs one by one and just notice when they're coming up. Don't deep dive, just allow it to come up and deal with it as when it comes up, and you'll find your flow.
Totally. All right. Love you guys so much. We'll see you on the next one.